I feel like I'm not experienced enough to be talking about this, but here we go! I just want my technology to work. That's it. Like, I don't want to have to look for the right brushes for hours just to look into the settings and just like trying to figure out how to make it work, and just, I don't know, the whole process doesn't feel very creative to me. But digital drawing does open a lot of new possibilities, so I'll try to make this as helpful as I can. So let's talk about digital inking. I try to make this as helpful as I can. This is the second video about inking. In the previous one I talked about the traditional way of inking. So if you're more interested in that, or you still want to learn about it, you can watch that. But maybe also watch this. There are up and downsides to digital inking, obviously. The upside is, well, you can undo lines and you can just easily erase them. You can change things easily. You can color your lines. You can fill in the blanks within seconds. If done right, you can save yourself a lot of time. The downsides are, it's pretty difficult to get the same kind of rough aesthetic as the traditional inking does. Often you can actually see straight away that the manga has been inked digitally. The lines are almost too clean, at least for my taste. And it's not quite as much fun. It's fun, but it's not quite as much fun. Also, I feel like a failure to have started digital inking without having completely mastered the traditional way first. But I can't let those things stop me. Another difficulty is also, like, if you accidentally delete your pages, they might be gone forever. It is a little bit more difficult to lose traditionally drawn pages. It's not impossible though. In this video I will be explaining how to ink digitally with Clip Studio, as this is the most common program for creating manga pages. But I'm sure lots of the settings can be applied to other programs in one way or another. And also, I'm not sponsored by Clip Studio and all the other brands I will mention in this video. Yeah, that's just the usual stuff. Just make sure I mention it, because people might think I'm getting sponsored with less than 200 followers. I guess this will feel more like talking about settings and not actual art, but I guess that's just the nature of digital art. You will need a pressure-sensitive tablet. And while you can draw with the mouse, who draws with the mouse these days? Honestly, just ink traditionally if you can't afford a pressure-sensitive tablet just yet. Why would you torture yourself with a mouse? Unless you're into that stuff, then go ahead. So yeah, I will not explain how to ink with a mouse, okay? Okay. Anyways, you don't need a screen tablet like mine. Lots of artists get great results with graphic tablets like Wacom or Gauma. Wacom used to be pretty much the only viable options, but by now there are a lot more brands. So yeah, if you decide to buy one, just do a little bit of research beforehand. My screen tablet is the Surface Pro 5. It's not perfect, but I like it. It works for me. The most important thing is the brush you use, of course. And Clip Studio already comes with a lot of great brushes pre-installed. The most commonly used one is the G-Pen. With this alone you can already do a lot. If you want your pages to look really manga-like, you need to either switch the anti-aliasing off or use the least strong option. It might look bad on the screen when you're zoomed in, but the black and white print will definitely look better if you use this option. So when you pick the G-Pen, here you have the size of the brush. It can be smaller or bigger. You have the opacity, which is like lighter if you go down, and you cannot see through it all if it's at 100. You have the anti-aliasing, I don't know how to say it, which I explained before, and the stabilization. We will go to the stabilization in a moment. But here next to the size you have a menu, and here you can adjust all kinds of stuff with your pen. You can turn off the pressure and the tilt. Basically the tilt is when you draw like this. It will driven the view to draw like this. So yeah, this curve is an important one. Basically, this is where you start the line and this is where you end the line. Depending on how you adjust it, your line will be different. So let's say you make it just pretty straight. There will be less variation. If you make it like this, it will start much more thicker and then it will be thinner again. So yeah, you can see a big difference there. So yeah, I have my G pen at not too much variation because that's how I prefer to use it, as I use it mostly for the backgrounds. You can play around with those settings and see just what works best for you. I mostly use two brushes for inking. First one is the G pen. I use it for backgrounds. I reduce the line variation a lot. For backgrounds, at best you have little line variation, especially if you are drawing non-organic objects. I also don't want the line to thin out too much. Basically, I want a digital micron. But of course, it depends on the look you're going for. The second brush I use is the rough textured pen MS5 by Flyland. So far I only bought a brush pack for Clip Studio pen once, and this pack is by Flyland. This collection of brushes is pretty great and I use them a lot, and this brush just happens to be the best for me at the moment. It might change in the future as it's still the very first chapter I ink digitally. I actually do sometimes switch to the real G pen when I ink characters. I don't know, it is pretty similar but still feels different. I don't know, I'm still figuring things out. If you have downloaded brushes from outside of Clip Studio, here's how you can install them. So you go to your pen tool and then just go down here, right click, and then import subtool. And then you can just install the brushes that you have downloaded. You just got to find them, I guess. And yeah, install them one after another. Clip Studio itself also has a big library for all kind of materials, and a lot of it's free. So you just have to go to Clip Studio Assets. Okay, the 6 ages. I might just go and make myself a coffee. Oh, there it is, there it is. Here, of course, you can just search for whatever you want. Those are like basically, apparently, the best materials for free. So let's say I choose just this one. Here you can just download it, but for that you will need to sign in. So now you can download it. Yeah, whenever I open this, for some reason, like, it just struggles. Did it work? No. Okay, now it worked. Okay, so then when you open up your Clip Studio again, here in the materials, go to downloads, and then it should appear here once it's done downloading. It's still downloading because it's slow. Okay. So I guess I'm gonna make myself a coffee after all. Okay. Are you done now? Let's refresh. Yes! There it is! Yeah, so all you have to do now is to just drag it into the recording subtool. Since this is a pencil, I'll put it into the pencil menu. Just drag it, drop it, and it's installed. Ta-da! Just like with traditional inking, you need to practice drawing a line. The more you draw, the more familiar you get with the tools. The technology can help you. You can turn on the line stabilization here. Don't pop it up too much though, as drawing curves will be almost impossible then. Fast lines are usually less wobbly, but are harder to control, so practice to draw faster strokes. Play around with line thickness, shadows, try some hatching. Don't be hesitant and just go overboard sometimes. This is the beauty of digital art. You can save your artwork at any stage if you want to experiment. There are lots of helpful tools to fill in the blanks. If you are still working with the sketch underneath, you can tell the fill bucket to refer only to the layer you work on. Just make sure that the area you want to fill in is closed in. If you let it refer to all layers, then it will act like all the lines are on the layer you're working on. So let's say the panel line is on one layer and this circle is on another. If you refer to working layer, it will see a gap here and will fill the whole area. If you refer to all layers, it will fill in this enclosed area. This alone can save you a lot of time. As for the backgrounds, you should always ink them on a separate layer. To draw straight lines, you can use all kinds of rulers. An exact ruler where you can draw a line exactly where you put the line, or you can draw parallel lines, parallel curves, circles, and focus lines, which are not exactly for backgrounds, but it is a must for manga. Or you can just draw a point, press shift, and then you can automatically draw a straight line from that point. Once you are done, you can either deactivate the ruler or delete it. Another amazing tool is the perspective ruler. So how to use it? So first you pick where some of your vanishing points are gonna be. So let's say I want my first vanishing point to be like right here. So I draw one line, second line, and here is the first vanishing point, and it automatically already adjusts the horizontal line, the horizontal line. Yeah. If you want to have a second one, you do the same, and voila. And if you want to draw, let's say here, you can it does automatically snap to the grid. It does not always work perfectly, but most of the time. Let's say you want to draw just like a bird over here, and if you try to do that, damn, it snaps to the perspective grid. You can just, over here, you can just make the layer with the perspective ruler invisible, and then you can freely draw a bird. This is a bird apparently, yeah. So this way you can just, draw whatever you want. Let's say here's a street, something like this, a fence. It just saves you a lot of time, and you don't have to think too much about the right perspective.
Isn't this great?
To keep things more clear, you can draw the background in a different color. If you want to change the color of the lines back to black again, then you just have to lock the pixels of the layer, select the area you want to change, and then just press the fill button in the selection menu, and voila, it's black. For black hair, I use the same rough textured brush as for the characters. I just make it a lot thicker. As for the speech bubbles, the speech bubble tool down here does make things easier. You can pick a speech bubble here, or you can make a shape like this. Well, that's pretty. And you can add this thingy here, not sure what it's called in English. And let's say you don't want to have the whole speech bubble, but want to have the speech bubble within the frame, then you can just press right button, rasterize. Then you can put down the opacity, and then just erase whatever is supposed to be erased. Put the opacity back to 100 and voila! Okay, so another great thing that the speech bubble does is if you have a couple of them following, as long as you still haven't rasterized them, you can do this. Or if you don't want to use the tool, you can always draw them yourself. I personally think it looks kind of a little bit nicer. Those speech bubbles look just too mechanical and not so pretty. I like them to look more rough. Even though there are all these useful tools, for some reason it still does take me longer to ink digitally than traditionally, probably because you can redo lines a lot. One thing I learned while doing research for this video is the wonder of vector layers. Holy shit, they can be really helpful. So when you create a new layer, it can be a vector layer. If you are drawing on a vector layer, you can use the object tool to grab the line and manipulate it to your liking. You can also just move it around. But that's not all, there's also a vector eraser. So if you draw over a certain line with the vector eraser, you can just do this and it erases the overstanding line. It becomes especially useful when you work with backgrounds. You don't have to worry about overlapping lines. I don't know whether this video was helpful to you. I guess it was somewhat helpful to me. While doing research, I did find new things. I'm gonna go back and change some things about the already inked pages now. I'm still in the middle of the learning process and I'm still not sure whether I want to stick to digital inking or go back to traditional. I don't know. At some point I might do an updated version of this video once I have gained more experience. Next video should be all about scanning your pages and preparing them digitally for screen tones and lettering. It will probably be a lot more about the technicalities rather than the creative process again. But I still hope you will stick around. But it's the boring stuff that usually no one talks about, even though those are the things we have to learn. So yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, you can follow me on my social media like Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. And please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!